Hi, I'm Brendan Blackwell. I'm going to be doing baseball for proficiency. To start off, I'm going to show you how to throw, catch, and then field later on properly. So in proper throwing motion, you have your ball. Get your ball, come set, and get to a proper flex tee with your arm, sticking up, showing the ball backwards towards the outfield. When you start to throw, you want to make sure you get your hips turned first before your shoulders fire. Then throw and follow through. When you're catching and the ball's coming in, you want to make sure you keep your feet moving so that way it looks professional and you're able to make the next play. So when it's coming in, you want to get both hands towards the ball. Here, demonstrate real quick. Coming in, you want to get both hands, transfer. This will start to get your feet lined up, and it'll get your motion already going back for a flex tee. So when you're playing baseball, of course, the most important thing you need is a baseball. Second most important thing you need, bases. In my backyard, we use makeshift bases where we have third, second, and first, and then home is usually set up with another plate. Most hitters use this when they're hitting, and I have too for my entire life. They use a batting glove. This helps with shock and prevents, if the ball does hit you in the knuckles, it is a little bit of protection. This came in a couple of years ago and has grown to a very high popularity as an EvoShield, and it goes on your on the shoulder that you lead with. So that way if the ball's in just a little bit and it's going to hit you right on the elbow, you don't get hit on the elbow. This takes it for you. Well, the third most important thing about playing baseball is you have a bat. This is clearly what you use to hit with, and it changes from Little League to what I play on is the 90-foot diamond. This is a big barrel bat, and they have small barrel bats, just so that way the ball isn't hit as hard on the smaller diamond. This is the biggest part of the uniform, what I really like. You need a baseball cap. Just not a baseball player without one. Sunglasses help for outfielders when they're battling off a tough sun. However, there is a difference in baseball bats because hitters will like to use a wood bat for you're working on sweet spot, because the sweet spot, or the part where the bat or the ball goes farthest off the bat, is smaller on a wood bat, and it's about probably half the size. Next part is for infielders. That was also an EvoShield. This is an EvoShield. However, this EvoShield goes on your wrist, so that when you're fielding a ball and it gets up and it just takes a nasty hop and hits you right in the wrist, this takes it for you. Next part of the game wasn't added until about 100 years ago, so they used baseball helmet. This protects you, especially on the bases. If you try to get picked off, you turn your head, this takes everything for you. Getting hit in the head, not fun. Most important part of an infielder is to have a glove. I use an A2000, which is a very top of the line glove, but any glove is going to do a good job. The more money you spend on it, of course, the longer it's going to last. When you're starting to field, you want to make sure that you're working through the ball and you're getting down with your glove out and your head going forward instead of doing this. Make sure you have your butt down farther in a comfortable position and you're working towards wherever you're going. The ball takes a bad hop, you're down close enough to the ground, you can come up easily. Okay, so for hitting, when we get into the box, makeshift box here, you want to get into a comfortable stance about a little bit bigger than shoulder width apart. I'm going to get your hands right back near your back right shoulder. And you want to have your foot just a little bit out, just enough for a stride. The ball's coming in. You want to load just a little bit, stride, swing. When you swing, you want to make sure that you have your shoulders not fired before your bottom hips, just like throwing. Fire the hips, drive through the ball. Should be able to keep a nice balanced position after your swing. So if you notice, go here, stride, swing. Good. So for bunting, it's the same general batting stance, except when you go, you're not going to swing. You're going to get your thumb in a good thumbs up position. Get it right on the entry point into the barrel. This hand here is simply for steering and dropping up and down. When you're bunting the actual ball, you'll notice that if a ball is outside, it's going more down the first base line, and if the ball's inside, it's going to go down more the third base line. Unless you're trying to bunt to a certain position, but it's easier to do it this way. Go. Rule number 1 about bunting: don't bunt it back to the pitcher. Rule number 2 about bunting: bunt strikes. Right? Yeah. So, bunt. So I have this very nice board that uses and shows all the positions on the field. Starting with the infield, we have one of the most important players is the catcher. And the battery consists of the pitcher and the catcher. The pitcher stands on the mound, catcher's behind the plate. In the left-handed batter's box, the right-handed batter's box. In the actual infield, first base stands by the first base bag. Second base is not really by the second base bag, but is in this hole between first and second. Short is in the same position, but on the left side of the field, in between second and third. Third baseman stands by a third base bag and takes the most common use that they have is bunting. They run in, they charge, and they throw to first, or man stealing second, going to third. He's got to give him out. Out in the outfield, you'll have your left fielder, center fielder, and right fielder. Usually, you'll put your strongest arm in right field because that's probably one of the longest throws aside from center. Center usually should have a good arm, but it's not as necessary. The center fielder is the captain of the entire field. He's the one that calls everything, and if somebody's confused, you go talk to the center fielder. Left fielder is important because it's the pull side for righties, which is the most common kind of batting, but doesn't usually have the strongest arm because he doesn't need it going to third or second because it's closest to him. Good. So when you get on base, you want to make sure that you're staying on the bag because if anyone touches you with the ball, you are out. Force plays come into effect for players on first because first and second are now both instant outs if you touch the bag. So for a little league, when you're playing, you have to stay on the bag until the ball crosses the plate completely. Then you can take a lead. This is because the base paths are smaller than it is up on the 90-foot diamond. Okay, so back on the little league diamond, you do need to wait until the ball crosses home plate and catcher catches it. You should take a lead where your right foot is out so that way it's easy enough to look back at the plate. You should be able to get a good stance so that way if the ball does go past the catcher, you can take off and take second. By taking, I mean stealing. However, on the big diamond, the 90-foot diamond, you can take a lead because the base paths are much bigger than on the 60-foot diamond. So usually when you take a lead, you want to take about 3.5 full steps. And this gives you one body length and your hand back to the bag. For first base, you should be lining up directly even with it because you have nothing to gain by not. And since the first baseman is always right there, you want to be able to make sure that you are back to the bag if the pitcher does decide to pick off. It's much different on the big diamond because you can take your secondary as soon as the pitcher lifts his foot. A delayed steal is when you take 3 large hops going towards second, and then you take off. This is usually done with a first and third situation because this will throw off the catcher and they're expecting just a straight steal. Another thing you can do while you're on the base path is another first and third situation is you have when the pitcher's taking a sign and he comes set, as soon as that foot lifts up, you should take off. However, you're not going directly towards the bag because if he steps off like he should and throw to whoever's in the infield, you want to make sure that you stay in a rundown for as long as possible. So that way the runner on third can score. So now we're going to do second base. This is much different from first base, being that you are farther from the pitcher and he can't see you. On the Little League diamond, the 60-foot diamond, you don't need to worry about this as much because it's a smaller field and you can't take a lead. So similar to how you do on first, you want to make sure you put your left foot on the bag so that way you have your right foot and you're open towards it. When the ball does cross home plate, again, you can take your however many shuffles you want to take or steal the bag if the ball goes behind the catcher. However, this is much different on the big diamond because you're farther from him and the shortstop and second baseman are not constantly on the bag as such in first. So there are 2 different types of leads when you're taking off from second. There's less than 2 outs and then there's 2 outs. For less than 2 out lead, you want to make sure you're lined up straight with second baseman. So when you're taking a lead off second with less than 2 outs, you want to stay directly in the base path for second. This is because it's less than 2 outs and chances are you're the only one on base. And if you are not, you're not as important. You should be taking 2 out lead. So when you take this lead off second, you can take a bigger lead because the catcher is also not as far from the base as the pitcher. So if the pitcher's going to pick you off, you should be able to get 1 step and a dive back to the bag. However, when you take your secondary, you can take 2 bigger hops because the catcher's going to take a lot longer. You're going to see it before it actually happens and be able to get back to the bag. It's not as common because of this fact. However, if you do have 2 outs, you want to get back on the bag and you want to step back about 3 or 4 steps. I usually go 5 because I like being farther away from the bag. This is so that way it's a bit of a deception to the pitcher about how far you are from the bag. It doesn't look like a big lead as if you were 5 or 6 steps off of second base. So when the pitcher is in his set, you should be starting to creep up towards third and towards the pitcher's mound. This is that way you get more distance, but he's not as suspecting of you because you didn't look like you was far from the bag. So this will get you, and as soon as he lets go of the ball, you should be back in line or pretty close to, and you take your secondary. This is going to be a bigger lead than less than 2 outs because with 2 outs you shouldn't be picking people off. Okay, so as with second compared to first, you do have a different type of setup for a third base runner. Third base runner is the closest to a right-handed pitcher because he can directly see. On a Little League diamond, this doesn't matter as much, but it does matter a little bit because the catcher is now as far away from you as he was when you were on third or on first. So on third base, it's a little bit different. You don't have to worry about which foot is forward because you're looking right at the pitcher. I still like to do the same thing just to make sure it's still happening. As with first and second, you have to wait until the ball crosses home plate before you can take your lead. And with this one, you shouldn't be going as far because you're the most important runner considering you're on third base. You're the closest you are to getting to score. However, it is also different on the big diamond yet again. You should be, when you take your lead, you should be in foul territory. This means you're off to the right of third base. This is such so that way if you get hit with the ball off the bat, you don't get called out, because you are if you are in fair territory. Also with this, it's not going to be as big a lead from first or second, just because the pitcher, chances are, is staring right at you. So when he goes home, it's you have to choose. You are able to do a leg lift pick to third. It's not as popular because it's third and it's a dangerous bag to be dealing with. Sorry. But when he does go home, you should be able to take a 1, 2, 3 hard steps. You're going to start off with your right foot, then the left foot, and right foot. Your right foot, second time, should land right when the catcher catches the ball. This is that way if he doesn't catch the ball and gets behind him, your momentum's still going forward, and you might be able to take home plate. Also, if you do take this and you don't end up going home, or the catcher pops up and is about to throw at you, you want to make sure you're going into the line, so that way you can't if he does throw down and he's not on the outside lane, he might hit you in the back instead of hitting his target. Just so that way you can just get back easily and it's not a problem. It's not.
Catch the ball. We're demonstrating how to catch,